Alright, folks, we are back here for the month of September to do these Oscar nomination predictions. And, man, many things are going on right now throughout, ever since I did the last video. Man, some things I had predicted in August, some of them did not end up to go in as big as I thought, but yeah, I've done a lot throughout of massive changes throughout my predictions. If you follow me on the awards expert app at Brian Crowell, you'll see how much changements I have done throughout some of my predictions. So let's talk about what has happened since the last Oscar nomination prediction video I did back in August. Venice gave the Golden Lion to Father, Mother, Sister, Brother, the anthology movie from Jim Jarmusch. So that basically means, like The Room Next Door last year, this movie's not going to be an Oscar player. Not because it's also an anthology movie, but the fact that the Academy has never recognized Jim Jarmusch at all, even though he does have a couple of good films that I do have in my Criterion Blu-ray collection. It's just probably the best is going to maybe be at Indie Spirit Awards, and that might be it if it is going to be qualifying for that. If the Oscars are ever going to recognize Jim Jarmusch at all, it would be for an honorary Oscar. But then we get into TIFF, and Chloe Zhao's Hamnet took the People's Choice Award. Obviously, this made a lot of sense to be the frontrunner for TIFF after it got the high praises at its first premiere at Telluride, and it was like, okay, this was probably going to be the movie that was going to win in TIFF. And sure enough, of course, it did. And obviously, I've now put it a lot in my predictions, at least in the top 8. Of course, I have not done predictions in the technical categories. And Netflix took both the second and third place positions, with Frankenstein from Guillermo del Toro took second, and Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery, took third. So one thing to note about this, I think they did kind of maybe have a changement for TIFF. They have now done obviously the People's Choice, but now the International People's Choice, which I believe this is the first time they have done this. So yeah. So if it's an international film that is not made in North America, or if it's a non-English film, it will compete in the international prize. So we did not know about this in the last prediction video, of course. So Park Chan-wook's No Other Choice took the top prize, with Sentimental Value right behind it, which was the big movie that came out of Cannes, and the Homebound, the Indian movie, took third place for that. And the People's Choice Documentary Award, to a little note, it's The Road Between Us, the Ultimate Rescue, Canadian documentary. So that kind of has a massive question mark, not specifically for Hamnet, but like, what is Netflix's top candidate? What is Neon's top candidate? Because I feel like throughout this season, I think the narrative of this season is basically studio campaigns. Because Neon has like what, 6 candidates, I believe? Like 5 of which might be competing in the international category. And then you have Warner Brothers with Sinners, Weapons, and One Battle After Another, which we'll get to there in a second. And then, of course, Netflix have so many candidates they have that, like, there have been some positive on some of them, but some festivals had better reactions. Like, the reactions to Jay Kelly had a better reaction at Telluride. I've heard, wasn't it TIFF, if I'm correct? Because I know it didn't have a good reaction at first glance when it was at Venice. No, it did not play. No, it did not play here. So, but it had a better reaction when it was at Telluride. Same thing maybe with Begonia, but a lot of people are not really sure about what to do with that movie at the moment, other than maybe one other candidate. And while the festivals were going on, we've been getting, of course, the submissions for the international feature category. Originally, I was planning to probably do a separate video of, like, telling you what could be coming, but I'll just bring that up here right now before we get into the predictions. But one other thing before we go on, of course, before I get into that, of course, I had to wait a little bit to see how the reactions to, and it's now officially out, Paul Thomas Anderson's One Battle After Another. And many people have already seen the movie, and I just want to wait for at least like, I'm recording this on the Saturday, at least a day or so after the movie has been released, to see how many people have been viewing in this. And I don't know how the box office will do, but many people have considered it one of the best films of the year. It's kind of hard to tell now with the Rotten Tomatoes score now, because the average rating is gone. So, like, I don't know what the average rating would be for a 97%. IMDb gave it an 8.5 out of 10. Letterboxd, at the moment, like an average of a 4.5. So many people have already considered it the best movie of the year. And it's odd because we still got like 3 more months left, and we still have yet to get some of the big ones like Wicked for Good or Marty Supreme or Avatar Fire and Ash, or some other movies have yet to premiere, like in New York or at BFI London or AFI Fest, I believe that's what it's called. So yeah, there's still a couple of movies that have not been seen in. The general public have yet to see some of the international films like Sentimental Value or It Was Just an Accident or No Other Choice yet, when they officially get their theatrical releases. So now let's jump into the mentions. I want to talk about a little bit about the international feature candidates, to what to expect, that could be candidates that might actually end up getting maybe on the short list or not. But I'm also going to say it's just basically based on who the director's behind the movie. And there are some other potential films I would mention that may be potential dark horse. So going by country order, the first one I want to mention is Belgium, with their submission being Young Mothers, which is directed by Jean-Pierre and Luc Dardenne. These are, of course, the brother filmmaking duo behind films like just The Kid with the Bike and 2 Days, 1 Night, which got Marion Cotillard a Best Actress nomination. Although, oddly, that movie missed the shortlist for international that year. Maybe this might give them a chance to be recognized, but they have yet to get a movie in this category, but I could see this being a shortlist candidate. Next up is Bosnia and Herzegovina submission, Blum, Masters of Their Own Destiny, which is a documentary directed by Jasmina Zabanek, the director behind Quo Vadis Aida, which got in the international category back in 2020. She even got a BAFTA nomination for Best Director in that jury year when there were 4 women nominees and only 2 men. It was like how weird they were. So not also that this would potentially also maybe be another candidate, one of the documentaries to get in this category, but even also for documentary feature as well. We'll see if that makes it on the short list. Brazil's submission, of course, is The Secret Agent. That's, of course, one of Neon's films, and the main stars also had been in a low conversation for a Best Actor nomination, so I don't really need to go into that one. Denmark's submission is also a documentary as well, and that is Mr. Nobody Against Putin. This is one of the top potential candidates to be in the documentary feature category. We will see, and obviously the poster is very unique, obviously, with Putin's nose being like Pinocchio's, of course. And after massive decisions on between like an animated film and even one of Richard Linklater's films, France decided to actually go with the potential smarter move for them to maybe hopefully they can redeem themselves after the Amelia Paris backlash, as they did submitted It Was Just an Accident from Jafar Panahi, our Palme d'Or winner in Cannes. So with that being France's submission, that is really good for it to actually get in this category. So they did make a smarter decision, even though they also did have the animated film Arco and Richard Linklater's Noël Vogue also in consideration potentially, but they did decide to go with It Was Just an Accident. Germany's submission is Sound of Falling. That was another movie like Young Women's that did showed up at Cannes. For Hungary, we have Orphan, which is actually from Laszlo Nemes, which his film Son of Saul won the international feature category, if you go by the year of movies, 10 years ago. So that is a potential short film candidate. And, actually, I didn't realize this now. India actually did submit Homebound, which, of course, was the third place pick at the international feature category at TIFF. International People's Choice, I meant. So, yeah, India did submit Homebound for that one. Now, this one I could see maybe as a potential dark horse candidate, not really in nomination-wise, but I could actually see this getting shortlisted, and this is Latvia's submission, Dog of God, which is actually one of the only, I think the only animated film that has been submitted in this category. Now, obviously, Latvia just got nominated last year with Flow, and they won in the animated feature category, but I'm mentioning this not because for potential candidate in the international category, but maybe now in the animated feature category. Yeah, it is a horror movie specifically, and I know the Oscars don't usually go with that, but with the competition in animated features so weak this year specifically, that could give Dog of God a potential shot to get in this category. I know it's a horror movie, so yeah, it's like it had been already has already been released in the country in September already, September 2nd, and we'll get a full nationwide expansion on October 16th. So when more people see it, especially with the horror month coming up here, we'll see how Dog of God does, if it actually can be a candidate in, not for a win maybe, but definitely a post-win nomination for Latvia in the animated feature category. Then we have another documentary being submitted for North Macedonia, The Tale of Ciliani, which is directed by Tarma Kudasovska, who is one of the directors of Honeyland back in 2019, which was the first film to be nominated for both documentary feature and international feature in the same year. That would have been my pick in that year's in both categories, to be honest. So with one of the directors behind this film, that is also another potential candidate in the documentary feature category as well, and maybe in the shortlist. Of course, we know since the end of August, Norway's submission is sentimental value, so that needs no explanation. I will mention Palestine's submission, Palestine 36. We'll just see where that movie, if it shows up on the shortlist or not, so I just want to mention that, of course. Poland's submission is France, which is from Agnieszka Holland, the same legendary European filmmaker behind films such as Europa, which got an adapted screenplay nomination back in 1991. In Darkness, which was nominated in this category back in 2011, and her last film, Green Border, I believe was submitted or wasn't. I don't remember, but 2 years ago, but it was nominated last year in the international category at the Independent Spirit Awards. So that's another person that you want to also keep in mind, like another submission I can see getting on the shortlist as well. Of course, South Korea's submission is No Other Choice from Park Chan-wook. Spain's submission is Sirat, the other neon film that also premiered at Cannes, and if I'm correct, I believe both Pedro and Agustina Almodovar are both producers on this film, although they don't direct the film. I could actually see this one being the one out of the 5 neon films to miss the shortlist. I can actually see that happening. And then one film I do want to mention as a potential dark horse that I could see maybe get a dark horse nomination is Switzerland's submission, Late Shift. Not because of who's behind the camera, but the star of the film is Lionel Benesch, who obviously had been starred in 2 big previous Oscar-nominated films in the past 2 years. The Teacher's Lounge, which was nominated in the international feature, which would have been my pick, honestly. And she was also in last year's movie, September 5, which got in for original screenplay, where she played the English-German translator. So, and also journalist, I believe. So, yeah, I could actually see, maybe some voters that might see her and say, oh, she was in the Teacher's Lounge. She was in September 5. We'll vote for the movie, if they really do like the movie, of course. So I can, if Late Shift does get that Dark Horse nomination, Leo Benesch, I can actually, that could almost have her potentially, not in for this movie, but in the future for another big movie she would star in, she would definitely come for an acting Oscar nomination in the near future. Another movie you want to keep your eyes on is Taiwan's submission, Left-Handed Girl, which is directed by Shi Xian-so. I don't know how to pronounce it, I do apologize. But the thing to note, and I kind of did know it about this when I saw this at Cannes, not also, ironically, this movie is also shot on an iPhone, but Sean Baker, last year's 4-time Oscar winner, is a co-writer and a producer on this film. And this is not the first time he has collaborated with this filmmaker, as they both directed together the 2004 movie Takeout. And so also had produced Starlit, Tangerine, The Florida Project, and Red Rocket, all of Sean Baker's previous movies. If he did produce Denora, I think they would have put this in top conversation. Now, the thing, of course, you got to know is, obviously, this category's nominee recipient is the country and not the directors and the producers like documentary or international. If they did, Left-Handed Girl definitely would have been a nomination here, because Sean Baker would have got the nomination because he's the producer on this film. And then you have Tunisia's submission, The Voice of Henry Rajab, which is directed by Kalter Ben Hunina, who did The Man Who Sold His Skin and Four Daughters, the latter of which was almost could have gotten in the documentary category, international category, excuse me, but only got in for documentary feature. And the subject matter, it's one of the most notable stories about the war in Gaza. And this movie, if I'm correct, does not have a U.S. distributor like No Other Land. It blew out when it came out at Venice. Like, oh my, it almost won every award at Venice except for the Golden Lion. Wow. So this could be like No Other Land, where it could actually, and it is also the longest standing ovation movie that premiered at Venice, beating out Pan's Labyrinth. Wow. Even though standing ovations really don't matter, but with the subject matter, and even though like No Other Land, it doesn't have a U.S. distributor, but this is a candidate that can actually get in if they do want to not nominate all the Neon films. And finally, you have Ukraine submission 20,000 meters to Advenkree. I don't know how to pronounce it, but this is, of course, the newest film from Michelin Chernov, who did 20 Days in Mariupol, another documentary, which, of course, that film won documentary feature, and this is not really a sequel to 20 Days in Mariupol, but it does have the same team behind it, not just Chernov, but also Michelle Meisner and Rainey Aronson-Rath. So, and another PBS documentary that goes to theaters instead of going straight to television. So, definitely a potential documentary feature nomination as well. Even though sometimes the documentary branch does not like to go with the previous winner in this category, in that category specifically. But Ukraine did submit this film, so maybe they could. If there's a lot more Ukrainian in it than it is in English, because I think the reason why 20 Days in Mariupol missed for me, I think was there was too much English in the movie. So if it has too much English in this film as well, I could see it missing. But I do think it would most likely get in for documentary feature. But I can see all those films that I mentioned all in the shortlist. Now, I know I didn't mention all the other ones, but those are the films you want to keep your eyes out on the most, especially when we get closer to the shortlist. So with that said, after all of that, now let's go into our predictions in the top 8 categories. So for adapted screenplay for September, I have Hamnet, No Other Choice, One Battle After Another, Wake Up Dead Man, A Knives Out Mystery, and Wicked for Good. Yeah, you might see that I might have jumped a little bit more on Wicked for Good than I did in the last prediction video when I just only predicted for picture in the 2 acting categories. I'll explain that when we get into Best Picture a bit. Wake Up Dead Man needs no explanation. Obviously placing third like Glass Onion did, so that's kind of good for it. No Other Choice now feels like more of a stronger candidate in this. I know I should be putting One Battle After Another at number 1, but I have to put Hamnet. I think it would be, like, I would say this. One Battle After Another is the most likely to get nominated, but I think Hamnet would be the most likely to win. And that's because, of course, most of the time, if you win the People's Choice Award at TIFF, you are guaranteed to be at least either the or at least a top candidate to win a screenplay category at the Oscars, whether it be adapted or original. And for this decade so far, we had Belfast and American Fiction do that. Even though that didn't happen with The Fabelmans or Nomadland, but this could give a chance to get Chloe Zhao a screenplay win. And since, of course, we'll have to see how the general public does feel about it. I could see it maybe not winning, so, like, sometimes, but if you win that People's Choice Award, you are guaranteed a good chance to win in the screenplay categories, respectively. Even though The Life of Chuck did last year, but it's looking more and more likely it might not actually happen. I know, like, putting in, like, Frankenstein could be a now bigger deal because, of course, it got second place at TIFF, but I'm not really sure which Netflix film I'm going to go all in on at the moment. So even Train Dreams is a possibility. Begonia, this could be one of the categories it might actually show up in. I'm not saying it's out right away after the divisive reaction had at Venice, even though there's a lot more positivity. But we'll see how the people's reaction to it would be, especially for the general public, and how critics feel about it. So I'm not saying it's out. It could come back in by the time we get to next month. So yeah, I just had to put Wicked for Good in there for at the moment. So yeah, I will probably explain more about it. So like I can see like one battle after another winning Best Picture without the screenplay category. So because with the whole TIFF tradition of almost doing that. So right now I have Hammond as the straightforward front runner here, especially since it's a movie that really kind of makes more sense as more of a dialogue driven movie, especially with the theming of Shakespeare. And we know when the last time a Shakespeare movie won a screenplay category. For original screenplay, I have Is This Thing On? It Was Just an Accident, Marty Supreme, Sentimental Value, and Sinners. So, the four of them that I had in last month, I had the three in the last month, but I finally did put back in It Was Just an Accident here after I decided to take it out last month. Now with the competition at the moment being a little weaker, and now with France being officially submitting the film, that's good news for the film to still get in this category. The one movie that we are probably still keeping our eyes on the most is This Thing On? Bradley Cooper's new movie that is going to be the closing film at New York, the New York Film Festival. So we'll see how the reactions to that film is. And obviously with the Academy really going more obsessed with Bradley Cooper, I'm kind of jumping in one of the few people to go into this. I know the Hannah cast was the first one that really went in on Is This Thing On? So I'm not saying Jake Kelly is out. This is probably one of the best bets for the movie to actually get in, at least somewhere in the top 8. Maybe The Secret Agent might jump along with it. If I Had Legs, I Kick You is coming out next month, as well as Anemone. We'll see how those two movies do. Like I said, Sorry Baby may be more of a critic's choice and maybe Indie Spirit's favorite, so it could still hang around like in the bottom candidates here. So, but at the moment, I think this would be a good win for Sinners in this. I know Sentimental Value makes a lot more sense, but right now I'm more confident in Sinners a bit, especially if Neon has so many candidates when I know Warner Brothers has 3 they're going in on, with Sinners, One Battle After Another, and Weapons. For supporting actress, I have Elle Fanning in Sentimental Value, Ariana Grande in her lead performance in Wicked for Good, Ignat Isbadalta Lelius in Sentimental Value, Jennifer Lopez in Kiss of the Spider-Woman, and Wunmi Masako in Sinners. I'm just going to put Lopez in here for right now. I know there were some people that are also kind of trying to predict Lopez here a bit. Even some people did after when it premiered at Sundance. It just, like, since the movie is going to be coming out next month, we'll see how the general critics and audiences are going to react to Lopez's performance. So, I mean, if we do have Grande in this lineup, why not put Lopez? Now, I know last year having 2 pop stars that were also big family television stars getting Oscar nominations, that almost happened with Ariana Grande and Selena Gomez, but Gomez did not get in, but Grande did. So, yeah, I know putting Sentimental Value makes the most sense for the win, but many people are thinking, okay, I don't usually go by trailer reactions, but many people think this might be Grande's time, maybe, especially now with, like, even before the final trailers came out, I think after September came along, I almost immediately had to change a lot for my predictions for Wicked for Good in the top 8, so I was hesitant to put Grande at number 1 at the moment, but if Sentimental Value was the top pick for the international people's choice at TIFF, I would have put Ignat probably at number 1 as the most likely pick. But I think Grande right now, without Wicked for Good's reactions at the moment, this could be her award to lose. Now, I should be considering doing one of the One Battle After Another stars, either Chase Infiniti or Tiana Taylor, but I'm not really sure which one of the two I would go with. And I know there were some people that were really hoping, like even after Weapons was released, for Amy Madigan to get a supporting actress nomination, but now with you having 2 stars from One Battle After Another and 2 stars from Sentimental Value, maybe even 2 stars for Sinners with Haley Steinfeld, and we'll see how Kiss of the Spider-Woman does next month, so there's going to be a lot of split voting. Supporting actor, I have Jonathan Bailey in Wicked for Good, Miles Canton in Sinners, Bradley Cooper in Is This Thing On, Sean Penn in One Battle After Another, and Stellan Skarsgård in Sentimental Value. Some people are predicting Paul Mescal to go in here for Hamnet, but as of this recording, we don't have FYC ads yet, so that's the reason why I don't have him in what could be a category fraudulent placement. So right now I have him in the right category at the moment. Now with One Battle After Another being a big deal, Penn is looking like he's going to get his first nomination since his win for Milk. And I believe his first time in supporting them, if I'm correct. So that's a big deal. If this thing on does do something, Cooper might get an acting nomination here. With the overperformance, I think maybe for Wicked for Good at the moment, I am going to do the Jonathan Bailey prediction here. And I went with Miles Canton in this one instead of Delroy Lindo for this one. But keep on the mind, be on the lookout. If Kiss of the Spider-Woman does something, be on the lookout for Diego Luna in this one as well. Obviously, with Frankenstein going second place at TIFF, Jacob Elordi is the one out of all the cast members that have been talked about. I don't think Adam Sandler is out. I think it would really depend on how the general public will feel about Jake Helly when they see the movie. So there might be somebody that might come in like in the bottom 5 slot in this category. But right now at the moment, I could see maybe Penn might be the one out of all the cast members that could actually win here, because if One Battle After Another is going to win Best Picture, it's got to have to take an acting win. And at the moment, with supporting actress not being a strong one for it, and actor is very questioning at the moment because we have yet to see one big major movie yet that no one hasn't seen yet, which is Marty Supreme. The best bet right now would be maybe Penn would get his 3rd Oscar this time. But it's like, now with the competition not being as strong as it is, maybe this could be his chance. Maybe even Stellan Skarsgård still as a possibility. But if Mescal goes supporting, most likely he would win, so we might have 2 years in a row where 2 lead performances win supporting performances, and there's going to be a lot of backlash for that. But studio campaigns has been the main narrative throughout the season. But so yeah. For actress, I have Jessie Buckley in Hamnet, Laura Dern in Is This Thing On, Cynthia Erivo in Wicked for Good, Renate Reinsvang in Sentimental Value, and Emily Stone in Begonia. Out of all the things that Begonia is the most likely that would get nominated somewhere in the top 8, it would be for Stone's performance, because that was the one that got the highest praise out of the reactions in Venice and at Telluride. Right now, Buckley looks like many people are saying she's going to win this over Renate Reinsvang, but you got to keep in mind, I wouldn't say it's over yet in this category, because we still have to see what Wicked for Good does. That's the biggest thing. If Wicked for Good is on the levels or even better than the first film, be on the lookout. Erivo might now also be Buckley's competition. Because right now I think Erivo is right now the winner for the actress in a comedy or musical side at the Golden Globes, without a doubt. Buckley most likely in the drama side, and guaranteed, well then again, Erivo's British as well, so it's like it's going to be both Erivo and Buckley battling it out for the BAFTA, because they're both British. And like Erivo's most likely maybe win at SAG, and then like Buckley could take BAFTA, but just like, oh gosh, you have 2 British folks battling it out for the win. So Reinsvang might have to be stuck in the 3rd place position if Wicked for Good is more of a stronger candidate for Best Picture. I think if I'm heard, it's correct that confirmed that Laura Dern is going leading, so that kind of is a good place for a slot for her to get in here instead of Jake Helly, because we could see Rose Byrne do it. Jennifer Lawrence is still a possibility. I've not heard anything about Tessa Thompson's performance in Hedda, but I just put that as the 10th slot. Many people could see Sydney Sweeney getting in here for Christie, even with the controversy that had her a couple of months prior. Well, we'll see. The makeup category is a possibility, but we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, she wasn't booed at the Emmys, so when she presented the award ceremony, but she's still keeping around a figure, so that could potentially, I could see like a Globe or maybe even a SAG favorite. So that could be something where she could go in, but might not make it at the moment. But so yeah, because right now I would say it's Buckley, Arrivo, and Ronsfeld that are in the conversation for the win. For actor, I have Will Arnett in Is This Thing On, Timothy Chalamet in Marty Supreme, Leonardo DiCaprio in One Battle After Another, Michael B. Jordan in Sinners, and I am putting right now, before FYC ads, Paul Mescal in here for Hamnet, in the right category, placed in at the moment. So if he goes supporting, he's going to win. If he goes leading, it's going to be a competition with him between Chalamet and maybe DiCaprio for his second Oscar. No one hasn't seen Marty Supreme or Is This Thing On yet. If Is This Thing On is not really an awards player, then we'll just see how Anatomy does with Daniel Day-Lewis. If not, then maybe Jeremy Allen White. Heck, maybe even next month I might actually go with Wagner Moreau in The Secret Agent. So I'm not saying like George Clooney is out or anything, or Dwayne Johnson, or Jeremy Allen White, but I could see like I could put in Moreau or Day-Lewis when we get to October. It just really depends on the reactions on Anatomy and Is This Thing On. Brief Springsteen also comes around that next month as well, was officially been released. So if Springsteen is almost really acclaimed being better than its reaction to Telluride, I would probably put Jeremy Allen White back in here, but at the moment I don't have it. I just took him out for right now, because you got to keep in mind festival reactions and official theatrical reactions from critics and general audience might be different compared to the festival reactions. So right now, just in the moment, Chalamet, this could be his year, but we just have yet to know any words about Marty Supreme. If it's on the same levels as The Smashing Machine, I could still see him get nominated, but that might not have a good chance for winning. If Marty Supreme's not that great, and if Mescal does confirm he's going leading, that's good news for him, but DiCaprio would be his competition. For directing, I have Chloe Zhao for Hamnet, Jafar Panahi for It Was Just an Accident, Paul Thomas Anderson for One Battle After Another, Ryan Coogler for Sinners, and John M. Chu for Wicked for Good. So, yeah, I have changed 3 of these out. I kept Jafar Panahi and Chloe Zhao on this lineup, but there are still so many people to talk about here. Like, I think I did put Josh Safdie in here last month. No, Joachim Trier I took out as a surprise snub here, because right now 3 Neon films are in the conversation for picture and director. Park Chan-wook is also in the conversation for No Other Choice, but laugh out loud comedies rarely get recognized in directing. I know the last time that happened, I believe you have to say The Grand Budapest Hotel, and then if you have to go all the way back, I would say it's A Fish Called Wanda. So you don't usually see laugh out loud comedies getting in this category. So that's the reason why. Sentimental Value, I could now almost see it's a movie where it could be more of an acting and a writing showcase, more so than a directing showcase, compared to It Was Just an Accident, which I had heard also from a confirmation that all the cast members are going supporting, so I heard this is more of an ensemble piece. So, but with the Palme d'Or Neon film winning that the Palme d'Or, you know what I mean, like with all the other ones except for Gitan, they automatically get a director, and now with it being Francis Mission, that's really good news for Panahi. Obviously, with the overperformance, I think, for Wicked for Good, at the moment, I had to put John M. Chu in there. I'm going to keep him in here unless if the critics are not really disappointed about the movie. So at the moment, this could actually finally be Paul Thomas Anderson's award to lose here. However, I could still see Chloe Zhao still winning this. Maybe even sweep the season, because if there is one director, like, I can see her being the director of the decade to win twice. In the same decade, because I know there were some people, I don't have a record of, I know there was somebody that did one twice, in a year in a row, in the way back, because I know the other 2, Joseph L. Mankiewicz and Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu, I forgot who the other one was, but, from my knowledge, from what I could have in my head, other than Joseph L. Mankiewicz, you can go back to the 60s with Jerome Robbins with West Side Story and The Sound of Music, the 80s with Oliver Stone with Platoon and Born on the 4th of July, the 90s with Steven Spielberg with Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan, And then in the 2010s, you had both Inarritu, as I just mentioned, with Birdman and The Revenant, and Alfonso Cuarón with Roma and Gravity. Chloe Zhao could be the first woman to actually win twice, and twice in the same decade. Like, if she wins I would say, if she wins the Golden Globe over Paul Thomas Anderson, because the Globes barely recognize Paul Thomas Anderson in general at that ceremony, I would say she would be sweeping the season. Because she could be the one that can actually win directing again. I mean, it makes a lot of sense with Hamnet being potential Best Picture frontrunner, especially after its reaction to Telluride and TIFF. But right now, with many people saying it's one battle after another, being Paul Thomas Anderson's like Schindler's List, The Departed, and Oppenheimer, this could be PTA's award this season. I could see like both of them taking different awards, like Zhao takes Globes, maybe BAFTA, and like, or one of them takes Critics' Choice over like if PTA takes DGA or something like that. Like, Sean Baker only had DGA and Indie Spirits prior to his Oscar win, so this could be a year where the race could be open. But if I say if Zhao takes like Globes and then Critics' Choice copies it, I would say it's over by the time we get to DGA. And finally, for Best Picture, I have Avatar, Fire and Ash, Hamnet, Is This Thing On, It Was Just an Accident, Marty Supreme, No Other Choice, One Battle After Another, Sentimental Value, Sinners, and Wicked for Good. So, yeah, there have been some 3 new candidates that came in here. The last month I had were Begonia, I had Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere, and Jake Kelly. I'm not saying they're all out. They're just a little bit now lower in, like, between the 11th or 15th slot with Frankenstein and Wake Up Dead Man, because I don't know which Netflix candidate they're going to go with. And I know it's going to be odd, they're going to point fingers at me that I have 3 Neon films in for Best Picture, but it's more and more likely that's going to happen. I mean, yeah, even though we don't like to talk about it, but Weinstein's Miramax movies, like 2002 was a year he was involved with like 3 movies he executive produced, 3 of his Miramax movies, and campaigned a bit on The Pianist. I know that it's almost like Neon is basically Weinstein for the right reasons, especially for international films, and Netflix is doing it for the wrong reasons if you go like with the Emilia Parras route. Because that's the thing, the whole narrative of the season is basically how many studios are going to campaign a movie and see how many of them are going to get in for Best Picture. And Neon's like having 3, and Warner Brothers has 2, and then like you have like Focus Features with Hamnet, A24 has Marty Supreme. Right now, it's more likely Searchlight might go with Is This Thing On instead of Rental Family, which I completely took out in my predictions. Even though, well, then again, you can't really estimate on the Rotten Tomatoes score because the average rating is gone. So that's a movie that's probably going to go and off. And then, of course, Universal has Wicked for Good, and then you have 20th Century Studios / Disney with Avatar. It's just like, I'm just going to keep Avatar in that 10th slot at the moment until when it's proven otherwise. So you're just going to probably keep it in here. So, and like, you don't want to doubt but for Best Picture or James Cameron for Director, even though it's unlikely for Cameron for it to get in for Director that year unless something happens. Is This Thing On? I just put in there, especially if the Academy really still takes on to Bradley Cooper, so he would get in for Picture, Acting, Supporting Actor, specifically an Original Screenplay again, Miss Director again, because this is a movie where it's going to be more of an acting and a writing showcase, and Will Arnett also co-wrote the script, so he would also get in for Screenplay. So I'm just confident right now with the top 6 plus No Other Choice, because we don't know about Marty Supreme at the moment, but I just have it also for Screenplay as well, so it kind of makes sense. It's just like, unless if Wicked for Good is on, like, one of the levels of the best movies in the year, like, I could see it's, like, the 4 that are battling it out between Sinners, Hamnet, One Battle After Another, and Wicked for Good. I mean, oh my gosh, like, the intense competition. Like, Wicked for Good could legit be a threat to One Battle After Another and Hamnet and Sinners if it's really a strong deal for Best Picture. If Wicked for Good would be like a Lord of the Rings Return of the King story. Same thing what could happen with Dune Part 3. If it is on par with the first 2 films or even better than the second part. I have to wait and see, but yeah. The whole narrative's basically 3 Neon movies winning Best Picture, and at the moment, one battle after another is basically right now on the levels of Schindler's List, The Departed, and Oppenheimer, where at the moment, this could be Paul Thomas Anderson's time. And with that, that wraps up my predictions for the month of September. We will be back for the month of October in about another month to see what has happened with some of the reactions for some of the films, including some more reactions out of the New York Film Festival, maybe even from London. And we'll see what candidates will come in and what candidates will come out for Best Picture. So if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and follow me on the Awards Expert app at Bry Crowell, where right now I have been doing a little bit more updates on those expansion Oscar nominations I have been doing, and doing more of what-if scenarios. I will probably plan to do like a video like of a what-if scenario for Best Casting sometime pretty much soon here. And hopefully there might be another Oscar tier list video hopefully sometime soon if I can get to it. But I'm going to be working on for October something for my Macy's Parade audience. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and hopefully this summer heat will kind of cool off as we'll get back into the coldness in October.